After an amazing 2 weeks experiencing close-up moments with African animals, it was time to go to our final destination, Capetown.
The night is racing. I'm tired of running after without knowing what I'm chasing.
We're about to fly to Capetown. Goodbye Kruger, goodbye safaris, goodbye animals.
Gotta get out of this dangerous land.
As we were descending into Capetown, we were impressed by the amazing landscapes. There were beautiful, expansive farmlands, hugged by breathtaking mountains.
And as we reached the outer limits of the city, large shanty suburbs started appearing.
Trying to live with an open hand.
We are now in Capetown.
Better way than being.
Once out of the airport, the imposing and famous Table Mountain instantly took the show.
Long way from the sun. My heart was fractured like the sidewalks where I run.
I found what made it intimidating was its tablecloth, a cloud phenomenon that keeps rolling off Table Mountain and spilling towards the city like an enormous waterfall.
Tomorrow I'm making my heart stop breaking. Cause it's been changing hands ever since I was young.
Welcome to our Capetown accommodation. Let me show you the rest of the house. Through here is our kitchen,
Long way from the
and as we follow through, we've got the lounge room,
fractured like the sidewalks where I run.
which has a beautiful view out to our 10-metre long pool. Now let's take you upstairs to see the bedroom. To our left, we have Kutcher and Callum's bedroom with a beautiful view.
Quiet, steady place to call my own. And these city lights are shining.
Back into the hallway, we have the shared guest bathroom. And now we go into mine and Poppy's bedroom. We then go into Ethan and Aurelia's bedroom.
Tonight I'm praying.
And we finish off with Mum and Dad's bedroom, which also has a beautiful view of the ocean.
Used to be a wandering man. It made me a lonely man, so
During the time that we were there, we were caught by heavy windstorms that were so strong they were knocking people off motorbikes. But that didn't stop us making the most of the swimming pool.
In fact, even when the nearby beach was too dangerous to approach. We made sure to sneak in a quick swim. I really love being taught cricket by Callum.
I was thrilled that despite not being great at cricket and Ethan being pretty talented at it, Dad managed to capture this catch on camera.
We are now at the V&A waterfront. In the city itself, shopping was certainly something that we explored extensively.
However, if you wanted to take a break from shopping, there were beautiful photographic areas to visit, like the suburb of Bo-Kaap, where all of the buildings were painted in a vibrant palette of colour.
One of the attractions when in Cape Town is to take a 3-hour drive to the little town of Gansbaai, where after a safety briefing by a marine biologist, you get to swim with sharks.
This is what Callum, Ethan and Dad decided to do on one very cold and rainy morning.
Hopefully we'll be going out to sea to see white sharks. Just seen 3 bronzewhaler sharks.
They ended up seeing 11 different sharks, kept all of their fingers and came back with big grins.
Perhaps that was just because their faces were frozen solid from the cold water.
It's really exciting. The tablecloth has finally come off Table Mountain, so we're going to head up there today in a gondola.
Although we were battered from 5 days of strong winds, we managed to catch a lucky break and made it to the top of Table Mountain.
To get to the top, we could either walk the trail or catch the gondola. We obviously chose to walk to the ticket office and buy a pass for the gondola.
The first queue that we encountered was to buy the tickets. Then you had to walk up the road to an even longer queue for one of the 2 gondolas. Fortunately, the view was amazing.
later and we've just joined our third queue.
Once on top, we could see why it is called Table Mountain. It was a very flat area that permitted us to walk its border along an easy path. All along, we had constant, mesmerising views to the horizon.
It seems that Capetown is setting the table as we can see the tablecloth closing in on us. Right down there is where we're staying.
The walk ended up exactly where we started from, at the gondola's entry and exit point.
We've seen our first rock, Dassie. Whilst there, we took advantage of the restaurant that had also been built at the top of the mountain and treated ourselves to lunch. Pizza!
Once our tummies were full, we once again lined up for a gondola to head back down. Fortunately, the queue was much smaller.
It was at this point that the tablecloth started coming in and turning the blue sky into a white blanket. It felt very magical. I wanted to touch it.
Today we're heading off to the wine regions near Capetown.
Taking advantage of a rainy day and a gift given to us from Uncle Darryl and Auntie Sarah, we took a trip to the Stellenbosch wine region.
The restaurant at La Petite Ferme was absolutely gorgeous. We got to try local produce cooked by a talented chef, and we were seated at a table with an amazing moody view.
The delicious food creations reminded me of a restaurant in Melbourne called Mercer's.
I could see why people love this area, And not just for the gorgeous wineries and restaurants. It was a lush green valley nestled within enchanting rocky mountains. I felt like we were back in the Aosta region in Italy.
On the way back, we decided to also stop at the Spears Wine Farm. Dating back to 1892, it is one of the oldest wineries in the area. Its gardens were beautifully manicured and peppered with unusual artwork. Unfortunately, it was not long after we arrived, and when we were at the furthest point of the grounds, that the rain returned and we had to sprint back to our car. Despite the rain, which Dad said actually added to the charm, we all absolutely loved the day.
It was on the way home that Dad called out that the 4 weeks of jam-packed exciting experiences were catching up with us kids. I wanted to strongly disagree with this observation, but I was too tired to speak.
I do not actually remember this discussion ever happening, as I would have also disagreed. Perhaps it occurred while I was asleep.
3,000 miles from home, trying to say that I will get there soon.
We're about to go on a boat to Robben Island.
Down this way.
Which was the prison that Nelson Mandela was held in.
When we were in Johannesburg at the Apartheid Museum, we saw numerous references to a prison on Robben Island.
I asked it, how do I know which is the right way to go to get me home?
The last prisoners, they were released in 1991. Then in 1996, the island was declared a national monument. In 1997, it was declared a national museum. Then in 1999, it was declared a World Heritage Site.
I didn't know how to feel about visiting a place where so many horrific things had happened. I was also concerned that we would again see very graphic photos of violence.
Go your way home.
This is the quarry where Nelson Mandela, like so many other prisoners, spent his days breaking rocks.
Although the island itself was beautiful, its historical purpose was always visible.
I would like to say something about this gentleman. His name is James Mange. What is special about him?
I felt so lost in life, felt like I'd never arrived.
Our tour guide used to be a prisoner on Robben Island. We really liked him as he was very passionate about the history of the island. He was also honest about his involvement in the apartheid, and he gave just as much attention to us children as he did to the adults.
Go your way home.
It must have been extremely difficult being a prisoner on an island for so many years, with the sight of freedom so close.
The last activity that we did was take a coastal drive to a place called Simonstown.
Once again, it was not long before we started to see clusters of shanties.
Except this time, the people who lived in the shanties had $1 million views.
The drive was absolutely amazing. What was even more impressive was the way the parts of the road were cut into the mountain.
The reason that Simonstown is popular with tourists is that a colony of African penguins long ago decided to make Boulderbeach their home.
They were really cute and they didn't seem to be worried about us humans.
We also got to see more Dassies, also called a rock hyrax.
Interestingly, Callum told us that the closest animal relative to the Dassie is the elephant.
Goodbye, Cape Town. Goodbye, South Africa.
Our memories of South Africa will stay with us forever.
We will miss you, South Africa.